What's up, everybody? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and I wanted to kind of do a video since it is still the beginning of the year. We haven't really seen anything from Crystal Dynamics in regards to 2022 for Marvel's Avengers. Really kind of get a video out there, just giving my thoughts on what the game needs to do and the developers need to do to be successful in 2022. Before we do, be sure to like and subscribe if you're new. Those are great ways to support the channel, and I really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, right off the bat, this is not meant to be a sort of whiny, I want this, I want that, entitlement type video. This is pretty realistic, right? So I understand that content for this game comes pretty slow. If you look at the total amount of content that we got in 2021, it wasn't that much, and I don't expect much more than that, if any more than that, in 2022. I'm kind of going into this assuming the same amount of resources and the same amount of content is coming in 2022, but it's more of them being selective about their content and making sure they're making the best use of their resources. That's what this video is about. All right, so I kind of got three different sections, three different topics that I want to talk about. The first thing is bug fixes. The game is good when it works. The content is pretty solid. Everyone likes the combat. They like the characters. No one's complaining about that stuff. One of the largest concerns is the bugs, right? Especially within the raid with matchmaking. It's a disaster. They need join in progress. They need desperately to fix the bugs. And I understand that, bugs will always be an ongoing battle for any developer, right? Like any developer is going to have bugs like that. But I would say about 95% of the issues with the raid, with, getting stuck and people getting kicked or crashing, probably 95% of that could be mitigated by adding a join in progress feature, right? That way folks could at least salvage a run. Even if it goes a little sideways, they can still get someone back in the raid and be able to still complete the content. But realistically, it's still not a good experience. It's not an excuse for the bugs. They need to fix the bugs because the content is good when it works, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think that it should work. All right, that's number one. Number two is the content itself. Now, this game is in the midst of an ongoing identity crisis, and I don't think the developers are fully grasping that. Okay, they want this game to be what they are selling as a live service game. They always want to throw out the word live service. They want to pretend, it'll be around for years to come, all that, this, that, and the other. What they fail to grasp that live service games are going to be or should be primarily focused on end game activities, okay? When you have an ongoing game that only gets content so often, most of your dedicated players, if not all of your dedicated players, are always going to be at that upper crust of end game, looking for the next thing to come out to test their characters. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the content they add to the game should be more focused and more targeted to end game, okay? The campaign was fine. War for Wakanda was fine for a campaign, but if you look back at War for Wakanda, realistically, I'll just say it was a flop, all right? Like, when we all first played War for Wakanda, and even looking back at it, we can all admit that it was a quality addition to the game. It was the best the game had added at, to that point in time, right? But realistically, look back at it. They got an all-star cast. All they did was market how nice their voice acting was, how they were adding, all sorts of new artwork, new assets. All the chests looked different. The area looked different. Every single thing was different. They're like, we're not reusing any assets. We're doing all this, blah, 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 and on and on and on. And then it ended up being a 2-hour campaign, and that was it. Right? Like, if you're going to dedicate 8 months worth of resources to a 2-hour campaign, you are not a live service game, okay? You should be trying to build a single player story game if that's what you're going to do. All right? So they need to shift away from that. And I'm not saying they can't have some level of storytelling in the game, because obviously the narrative has to drive forward, and I get that. And it can drive forward through the content. The OLT tells a story, right? The raid does tell a story. It finishes the story of Claw. Like, you can tell stories through the content. You don't need all these expensive voice actors, all these different assets, tons of development work, developing all this stuff that hardly sees any use. It's like a lack of resources. And realistically, I say it was a flop because it just didn't get players as engaged as they thought it would. They thought every single person, they were going to come flocking back in droves to play War for Wakanda. Realistically, they got some players, people checked it out. Okay, it's a free DLC. Let's check it out. And then those same players were gone again because, a day after you beat War for Wakanda and got Black Panther up to the max level, you were still playing the same game, right? So that's the issue. Now, look at the raid. In contrast, this is kind of to drive my point home. In contrast, look at the raid. Now, again, issues with the raid aside, maybe you want to go back and look at with the time travel cheese, whatever you want to look at. The point is, the raid right now added way more to the game than the War for Wakanda campaign expansion, right? No one's replaying the War for Wakanda expansion, but people are playing the raid all the time. It's now the premier activity that everyone does in the game. And back when you could do it, as many times as you wanted, players were engaged. People wanted to play it. They wanted to grind for loot. They wanted to be rewarded for their grinding. And it was nonstop. You have players like Lejeune saying they were playing the raid 10 times a day. It was all they were playing, right? They weren't even doing other content in the game, right? So to me, that tells me that the raid added way more replayability to the game than the campaign did. So long story short, to kind of tie this all with a bow, more focus on raids, horde mode, patrol mode, whatever else, high-end villain sectors like the Cosmic Cube, whatever. It's up to them to figure out what they want to do, but focus on the end game and minimalize the campaign type stuff. That'll be a better use of your resources going forward. If you can only put out so much content, make most of it like replayable end game that actually adds to the replayability of the game. You shouldn't have anything fleeting. Everything should be replayable and add to the game, add to the game, add to the game. So that's point 2. Point 3 is skins. All right. Now, I've always been of the mindset that skins are what they are. If you like a skin, buy it. If you don't. No one's forcing you to buy it. And this isn't a whiny skin, I didn't get the skin I like type of thing. But I think they really, really need to do a better job on these skins, okay? And some of them are okay, right? Obviously, the MCU ones are usually pretty good. When they do good skins, they're good and people buy them and people like them. But they come out with too many recolors, right? They do all these recolors, and I get it that the recolors are faster, right? It's faster and easier to just change a color of a skin and throw it back on the marketplace. They can do those quickly, while the other more, more detailed skins, the MCU ones or the specialty ones, like they take more time. I get that. But at the same time, they do need to kind of stay on top of stuff. The fact that we haven't gotten a Kate Bishop MCU skin, especially after the Hawkeye show, is absolutely ridiculous. They should have 100% done Kate Bishop or both, honestly. Like, people would have bought both. I don't know why they think that, people wouldn't have made money making 2 skins. And then knowing the fact that they made a Hawkeye skin, knowing that the Hawkeye Civil War suit was then coming right along in the shipments, that to me was very stupid. They also have still not come out with a Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'm not completely blaming Crystal Dynamics for that. I'm sure there's some money at the top. It's probably, I'm sure Sony is involved, and even Square Enix is involved. The money men are definitely involved with that. But the fact that they're the only game that hasn't put out a No Way Home suit, it's embarrassing. It's still embarrassing. Like, whatever the powers that be, people in high towers that are making these decisions, all the money men, right? Like, this isn't just at Crystal Dynamics, it's at everybody. Square Enix executive leadership, Sony executive leadership, they need to get their act together, right? Because they've missed the boat. they've completely missed the boat on No Way Home. And now, like, even if they came out with it, you know, at some point they resolve their issues and come out with it, it's not going to be as well received as if it came out the freaking day that it came out, that the movie came out, right? Literally, I think every other Spider-Man game that I can possibly think of came out with that skin. So, I don't know. But long story short, this is not meant to rant about Spider-Man. Like I said, Kate Bishop is kind of in the same boat, but they need to, for a game that is reliant on microtransactions and cosmetics as your primary source of income, right? And also as a game who is struggling, we know they are struggling to meet expectations, right? That's not speculation, right? They are underperforming. The fact that they're not, like, we want to support them, but they're unwilling to help themselves. The best analogy I can think of, this is going to sound a little silly, but I just kind of thought of it, is let's say you go to a bakery. It's a really good bakery, but they only sell oatmeal raisin cookies. But they're great oatmeal raisin cookies. You say, wow, we really like your cookies, but we would love some chocolate chip cookies. Can you make some chocolate chip cookies? And they say, okay, we've heard your feedback. We're still making oatmeal raisin, but we'll consider chocolate chip cookies. And then everyone says, okay, great. They're going to consider chocolate chip cookies. And then finally they say, we're coming out with a new cookie. Here it is. It's a macadamia nut cookie. And people say, whoa, we all wanted chocolate chip cookies. And they say, well, no, it's the macadamia nut cookie. This is what we're doing. And it's like, okay, well, like, maybe some people like macadamia nut cookies, but we're being pretty clear in our feedback that we wanted chocolate chip cookies. So why can't, like, we're trying to buy stuff from you, we're trying to support you, and you're not letting us, right? So that's my analogy for the skins, right? We want comic accurate skins, we want MCU skins. They should line up to when the series are hot, right? Hawkeye and Kate Bishop during Hawkeye, Spider-Man during Spider-Man. Like, if I was running marketing at Crystal Dynamics, that would be my primary objective, is to make sure these skins are ready to take advantage of the trend, okay? The fact that they're not doing that, they're sleeping at the wheel. And I don't know who, I'm not naming any names, I don't know who's in charge of marketing at Crystal Dynamics or Square Enix, but they are absolutely asleep at the wheel. I don't think they could be running the ship any worse, all right? And that's not meant to be an individual dig. It's more of just Crystal Dynamics in general. But like I said, I can't tell them how to make money, but we're pretty clear in our feedback on skins and what we want. And it's tough. It's tough to support someone who doesn't want to support themselves. So anyway, that's it. I know that was a little long-winded at the end there, but really those three things: making sure the content works, getting the bugs fixed out, right? Making sure that they focus on end game first and don't waste all of your resources building campaigns that don't get replayed. And then get the skins right, man. Get the skins right and people will buy. All right. Those three things, I think if they just shift their philosophy and kind of realize what kind of game they are, I think they can still make it work, but only time will tell. So anyway, that's it for me in this video, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Again, be sure to like and subscribe if you're new. Consider joining the Discord. Follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. Those links are all down in the description. That's it for me, and I'll see you in the next one.